Thank you, friends. Shabbat shalom. Greetings to you all. I hope you are all doing fantastic. What a week this has been. We're a few days away from the official beginning of summer. How quickly the year is going by. Tempus fugit. And of course, the summer is marked by the summer solstice, Latin for sun standing still, because that is how it appears. And of course, it is the longest day of the year. But it's not just the solstice we're celebrating this week. It is Helen's 18th birthday. Very special day, a very special year. Have a fantastic birthday. You're on the verge of a new life. You are about to begin university, and with it, you will take on and change the world. We can change the world, rearrange the world. It's dying to get better. And it is Father's Day, a day to call, to think of, to visit, to remember Father. Their lives changed more than you realized when you were born, as their sole purpose shifted to your well-being. We may not all be, but we all have fathers. Think of them this day. I think of mine, and I am sure that you all think of yours. And I know that it is especially hard for those who have just lost their fathers. It's hard for Satinder, whose father, Johinda Singh Sahota, passed away the other day. He was a wise and caring man. We called him Duru, and he never refused anyone who needed help. I know you will miss him. And of course, it is hard for Helen, whose father Sheldon Shlomo HaKohen ben Moshe V'Friedel died last week, and the toll it has taken. The righteous will always be missed. They are often not known by name. They are known by their great deeds and the love that they shared. And Stephanie, I am so sorry to hear about the loss of Shakespeare. The hole created in our hearts and souls by the loss of our special friends is truly disproportional. As the other Shakespeare said, out, out, brief candle, life is but a walking shadow. And the shadows of loss can touch any of us at any time. You will miss him and his spirit, but spirit never dies. Alav HaShalom, may he rest in peace. And friends, when there is a solstice, well, there's just something in the air. The energy is different on each of the 4 sacred days of the earth, the 2 solstices and the 2 equinoxes. And there's something in the air this week as we read about the Korah rebellion. See? Everywhere I hear the sound of marching, charging feet, boy. 'Cause summer's here and the time is right for fighting in the street, boy. Well, there may be no place for a street fighting man, but there are plenty of fighting words, as this week we explore the Parsha of Rebellion Korah. These are the stories, almost presented as the story, of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram, not to be confused with Abraham, Martin, and John. Korah was the son of Yitzhar, son of Kohath, son of Levi, and Dathan and Abiram were the sons of Eliab and On, son of Peleth, son of Reuben. And friends, this tells you that we have the tribe of Levi and the tribe of Reuben represented, and that is important because of what they stand for. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. We are told these 3, in effect, took up arms, and they rose before Moses and 250 men of the Israelites, community chieftains, persons called up to meeting, men of renown. And they assembled against Moses and against Aaron and said to them, "You have too much. For all the community, they are all holy, and in their midst is the Lord. And why should you raise yourselves up over the Lord's assembly?" Wow! What do we have here? Korah, son of Levi. Dathan and Abiram, sons of Reuben. The house of Levi, the church, and the house of Reuben, the state. A rebellion against Moses. And friends, it's not just these men leading rabble, but leading leaders who were opposed to the concentration of power in 2 hands, the hands of Moses and Aaron. Korah, who we know so little about, other than he is Moses' cousin, becomes the archetype of the presumptuous rebel against just authority. And he's mentioned alongside Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Reuben. Dathan was the Edward G. Robinson character in the 10 Commandments, but there he was always presented to us as evil. Here he is not. And here the conjoining of Levites and Reubenites is the first signal of an underlying problem. Had Moses become too dictatorial? No one in Jewish history had the power of this man. And systems are put in place to ensure no one ever did again. Not David, not anyone. Now Moses says the Lord will choose by each of these leaders of the 250 lighting incense. And of course we are immediately reminded of what happened when Nadab and Abihu, Aaron's sons, did. Theirs was unacceptable, and so they were incinerated like a sacrifice. How many others will find the same fate? Well, Moses deflects the Korah complaints completely onto Aaron. Moses had already divided the leadership. He was in charge politically. Aaron was in charge spiritually. Neatly packaged control of all parts of life by the two brothers. And while the Korah situation is being dealt with via the incense, Dathan and Abiram say to Moses, "You brought us up from a land flowing with milk and honey, see? To put us to death in the wilderness, see? That you should also actually lord it over us." I'm not the best Edward G. Robinson impersonation. Now, Egypt was the land of milk and honey, and they've not gone to a land of milk and honey. What a turn of a phrase. So, friends, what makes your land of milk and honey? For some, it is the known, not the unknown. Well, you then have a fantastic scene in Numbers 16:21. Moses and Aaron on one side, Korah, Dathan, and Abiram on the other. Moses calling for a shootout at the OK Corral as the fire pans of incense are to be lit. And as if we have never heard it before, God says, "Divide yourself from this community and I'll put an end to them all in an instant." This is some ace up his sleeve that Moses has. Well, history is written by the victor. And this was written as a rebellion. What would the American Revolution be called if Britain had prevailed? What would the Civil War be seen as if the secession flag were flying instead of the stars and stripes? Hey, think the time is right for a palace revolution? But where I live, the game to play is compromise solution. Friends, in war, no one wins. We must learn to find other ways of expressing dissatisfaction with leadership. Totalitarian control is never an answer, and neither is revolution. It should not come to that. You see, in this Torah Parsha, there are two separate rebellions taking place in two slightly different locations, and they have been fused as one in the writings. Korah versus Aaron's control over religion. And as he says, after all are holy. Dathan and Abiram versus Moses and his political control. The two rebellions have been combined. The Levite rebellion for priestly privilege and a Reubenite rebellion for political power. Now, the Levite issue is obvious. The Levites are the chosen priestly class, but do not want all power concentrated in the family of Aaron. And the Reubenites, well, they were the firstborn of Jacob, and therefore they see themselves as the rightful inheritors of power. And the rebellion ends are different. At the Korah fire and incense show, and a fire had gone out from the Lord and consumed the 250 men bringing forward the incense. Just like Nadab and Abihu, taken like the sacrifice, incinerated. And in another location, at a slightly other time, we see with Dathan, Moses suggests, if a new thing the Lord should create, and the ground gapes open its mouth and swallows them and all of theirs, and they go down alive to Sheol, you will know that these men have despised the Lord. And it happened. Just as he finished speaking all these words, the ground that was under them split apart, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them and their households, and every human being that was Korah's and all the possessions. And they went down, they and all that was theirs, alive to Sheol, and the earth covered over them, and they perished from the midst of the assembly. Boy, Moses sure called that one. So what happens? The earth opens. It swallows Dathan's entire community and closes again. Not an earthquake, but the earth itself open and close. Something completely supernatural. What a show. And of course, Sheol was the biblical place of darkness to which all the dead go. Now, in the Second Temple period, this changed a little. There's a separation or compartmentalization between the righteous and the wicked. And this led to the Greek concept of Hades with its combination home of the deceased. Now remember, This was all taking place after a year of sitting at the foot of the mountain of God. Then they got ready to move and sent chieftains to scout, who saw the land which was promised, a land truly flowing with milk and honey, but whose fear kept them from moving forward. So we actually do not know when these twin rebellions were. The timetable's not known. Is this after years of wandering, or is this current? It doesn't matter. Isn't this about what the episode of The Spies was about? Leadership. Who our leaders are. What our leaders are. Were Moses and Aaron not showing enough? That was Bob Dylan saying it most of the time. I can follow the path, I can read the signs, stay right with it when the road unwinds. I don't cheat on myself, I don't run and hide. Hide from the feelings that are buried inside. Friends, why do things happen? What triggers the events, and what triggers the events in your life? Genesis was the descent of the spirit of man from perfection to ego-driven, and therefore collapse. Exodus was about man's attempt to rise again, to free himself from the constraints which ego and fear create. Leviticus was a priestly consolidation of power thrown in to legitimize the priestly claim, and now Numbers, a census undone by getting what you ask for. But more importantly, it's about leadership. On the macro level, church and state. On the micro level, family and personal spirit. You see, the two different modes of destruction, consuming fire engulfing the Levites, while the Reubenites are swallowed up by the earth, is a weaving together of the two rebellions intended to suggest that political and spiritual power are inseparable. And of course, the two separate stories, one against Aaron, one against Moses, fuse together, and the struggle for control politically and spiritually has been fused ever since. The real thrust of the story is not considered justice, but spectacle admonition. Terror surges through the whole people as they witness the earth gaping, then closing, with the rebel Reubenites tumbling into the underworld. Now, God killed 14,700 of his own people that day, and resolved things via the magic blooming of Aaron's staff to determine leadership. We need to see to believe. And it will happen that the man whom I choose, his staff will flower. Well, we need symbols. We love symbols. This becomes the talisman of future leadership. It ceases being anyone's staff and becomes the symbol which will live at the tent of meeting. Again, we see the seeds planted. This, my friends, points to the beginning of a plan for the transference of power. The Pharaoh's crook and flail. The shepherd's crook stood for kingship, and the flail for the fertility of the land, and they have been symbols of power ever since. This whole story, like so many others in Numbers, marks out a borderline between the sacred and the profane, symbolically stressing that only the consecrated can cross into the zone of the sacred. And the Lord said to Moses, "Bring back Aaron's staff before the Ark of the Covenant as a safekeeping, as a sign for rebels, and let there be an end to their murmurings against me, and they shall not die." This phrase of God's, as a sign for rebels, will be a major one in the future. This is a fantastic piece of foreboding. Yes, the world is sacred, and so is everything in it. Express your gratitude, my friends. Light a candle, make a wish. Celebrate your life and the lives of those you love. Share your feelings with them. Live free, be free. Honor your freedom. Celebrate the sunshine. Be well, be happy, be blessed. Share and honor the light and all who live in the light and continue to shine. Continue to send everyone you know goodwill and love. Pray for peace and freedom for everyone, an end to terror and hatred. The mechanism for the transfer of the mantle of leadership has been established. The prop of leadership has been established. As Dave Mason saying, don't get too lost in all I say, though at the time I really felt that way, but that was then, now it's today. I can't get off, so I'm here to stay till someone comes along and takes my place with a different name and, yes, a different face. Feeling all right? Not feeling too good myself. This Parsha, my friends, marked a turning point. And remember, friends, we are a community. We learn together, we celebrate each other, we love each other. Thank you all. Love you. See you all next time. Wishes do come true. Thanks for joining me. Have a fantastic Father's Day and a fantastic enjoyment of the solstice. Bless you all. Shabbat Shalom.